Now what we're going to do is move on into chapter 2, where we're going to start talking about sets. And before I get into this very much, I do want to say that what we're going to be doing here is going to be a fair amount different probably than what you're used to from a math class, because this chapter, especially the first few sections, are going to be a lot less based on computation than what you're probably used to for math. More of what we're doing here is developing something close to a language. We're talking about something called symbolic logic. So we're looking not so much at actual pushing around of numbers as we are trying to develop an understanding of some new terminology and some fairly different notation. So big thing is be patient. It take a little while for it to work. I think you're better off thinking of this as you would a foreign language class than say algebra. So it's going to take some time to get used to, and it's going to be fairly different. And before I get into that, let's start off with trying to talk about what these sort of things are without just referring to them by name. So let's say you get up in the morning and you need to fill your backpack with stuff for the day. So we'll say that is the collection of things in your backpack. Is the things pretty easy and do it pretty directly to describe exactly what's in there just as a sentence. And if I wanted to, I could list out the things that are in B just as well, right? Now, B is the things in the bag, so I could say B is notebooks, pencils, or pens if you prefer, textbooks, maybe some tables, calculator if you're in math classes, probably, I don't know, what else could be in there, a whole bunch of different things maybe, but it's the things that are in there. And if you want to describe what's in there, you could just write a list. And the important thing about this list is the way I came up with it's kind of arbitrary. If the first thing I thought of was a calculator, then I would put the calculator first, but it didn't actually affect what was in there, and it doesn't change the things in the bag. The order I write them. But it is still the same collection of things in your bag. And if I wanted to be weird about it, I could say that little b is an item in your bag where you'd say such that items are in your bag. So symbolically, I could, instead of talking about the entire collection, talk about a specific item where that specific item follows a rule based on it being something in your bag. And why I'm talking about this is to set up the idea of what a set is without getting too deep into the weeds of the terminology just yet, because really all a set is just a collection of objects. A little bit more to it than that. It's a collection of objects with some clear definitions for where they come from. We would say that the set is well defined depending on how the property is that sets up what the set is. I'm sorry, I'm going to say the word set too many times. It's going to reach satiation and it's not going to have any meaning for you by the end of this video, but bear with me as best you can. Where the objects called either members or, as I'll most often say, elements. So if we want to talk about the collection of things B in your bag, we could say B is the set of items. We'll call those items little b. In your backpack. Again, the definable pattern that makes up this set doesn't necessarily have to be something nice like math patterns you might think of where it's add 1, add 2, add 3, add 4, add 5. It's just, is it something you can describe? In this case, I can describe the property item is in your bag. That's all it really is. It's just a definable property. This way of describing the set is what's called a word description. The way that the book refers to this is kind of silly, not a bit more intense than it is. It's just a sentence. It's a way of describing the set in words rather than symbols. Alternatively, you could also say that B is the set of objects in the bag by listing them. And to do that in proper set notation, you say B is equal to. So I'll add some notes so you can tell exactly what's going on. This is our set B. Here the equal sign is meant to say is. Then we draw this thing called a curly brace, where we're opening it up as we're looking at it and saying something to the effect of the set of whatever is in there. And then in there go our things, or in this case, it's notebooks, pencils, textbooks, your laptop, maybe an iPad, whatever you have with you, it's the set of things that go in there. For these are our elements. So the other way that we can do this, one of the other ways we can talk about the things that go into a set, the way we can define a set, is where you write it out as a list inside of the curly braces. This is called roster notation. Hopefully that name, roster notation, is indicative of what it's meant to do. You are making a roster for the set and listing it out. That also, the fact that it's a roster kind of tells you something important, because while you can organize a roster in some way, order doesn't change what's in there. It doesn't meaningfully change the collection. If I were to talk about the roster of our class alphabetically, it's still the same whether I decide that's alphabetical by first name, last name, or middle name. It's still the same collection of people. So in the same way, if I rewrite the order in roster notation, I'm not changing the set. Set B is the same whether that's notebooks first, pencils first, texts first, or anything else that's in there. Order does not matter, because all that matters is the definition. As long as we're not changing the definition in any way, we're not changing the set in it. And then the last way we can talk about this is in terms of describing the rule. So the other way is we could say the set B, so same start as before, is equal to, so the set B is the set of. Now instead of talking about our objects by listing each of them out, we're going to do this idea here, where we just take some general term to describe an item in there. So B, where in this notation that value B is just a general item, general element. It's just something that's definitely in there. Then we draw a vertical line, where that vertical line is read to say such that. So far, what we've written here in the symbols is B is the set of items B such that something happens, where the something that happens is B is an item in your bag. I ran out of space, but you get the idea there. This is whatever rule you're working from. It's your definition of the set. Which is why this is what's called set builder notation. Because what you're doing is taking your notation. You're taking your set and you're describing it in terms of the rule that it's built from. So, for a set, you have three ways of describing it that all essentially do the same thing but have different sort of notational quirks. Where in any case, what you're looking at is either describing it in words, listing everything, or describing the rule.